Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of In the Room with Garvin and George. And as usual, we don't know what we're going to say, but who knows? We'll go with the flow and it'll all take itself wherever we need it to go. However, we have been talking about where we are with Any Which Way But Out, our feature film that we're working on at the moment. And one of the problems that we find is that from the outside perspective, it's hard to know what we're actually doing. Are we just twiddling our thumbs? But what we've actually done is we spent a long time developing a script, which has taken time to work through to get it right, get the structure right. And people don't see that. They can't see that. But without this very important document, we have nothing to work with. And we basically need this document as a template to help structure what could potentially be 10 weeks of work for us in production. And this is the time that we need to go slowly, because if we go too fast to get to that production process, which is where everybody wants to be. They want to be at the production and on set where it all happens. But if you don't get the script writing done and work out the processes that you're going to go through you're going to waste those 10 weeks. And I've been on set with people who have done that with their particular production. So this prep work that we're doing is essential. And in your experience, Garvin, with other projects that you've worked on, how important has been the prep work?
Well, you say all this sexy stuff, you talk about all this lovely stuff, you chuck a question in at the end that I wasn't waiting for or expecting. I go, that's got nothing to do with what he just talked about. He's going,
It is.
No, it is. But no,
yeah.
you're asking the wrong person, because actually, you're asking the right person the right question as being the example of someone that didn't do it. So I never prepared. I dived right in. We've loads of shows to talk about that. Dive right in. Don't worry about the prep. And you'll sink or you'll swim. So most of the time I was a firefighter. So someone else, I was brought in to dive right in and firefight. And the only prep work was I was there. And I, maybe learned some skills beforehand, but I didn't know actually, this thing over here is reading today. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And that was what my opportunity normally was for the last number of years, as in my previous history as a consultant. I was nearly a consultant firefighter. I can solve problems on the fly, bringing to bear my experiences of solving problems on the fly in the past and applying things to quickly to maybe put the fire out. It's not to fix the problem that led to the fire. It was to put the fire out, maybe contain it, maybe not let it go further, and then to start maybe figuring out what led to it, and maybe then backtrack and maybe to then prevent it happening again, and maybe fixing it. But the fact was there was a fire and something went wrong, and this is all about data, broken data, wrong information. So, but that all aside, we're bringing that to bear now in the sense of we're, with our 30 years of experience, are going, this is our baby that we're doing. We're doing our feature film. It costs a lot of time and energy and effort to get prepared beforehand, but we're firefighting before we start. We're saying there's no fires. God forbid there's a fire. So what we're going to do to prevent the fire? We're going to plan. We're going to prep. We're going to build processes. We're going to, not to the extent whereby we don't do it at all, because we can actually bring that minimum viable product or valuable proposition together and saying, if it's done this way in this order, there should be no fire. And we don't know about the uncontrollables out there. Someone comes along with a can of petrol and throws a match at the damn thing, there's going to be a fire. But in the absence of that, we're saying, if these things happen in this order, this way, there'll be no fire. It'll minimize, risk. It'll be good for health and safety. It'll be good for mindfulness on set. It'll deliver a great experience. It'll have as an output the desired output based on the inputs we put in. So we're investing an awful lot in our preparation processes to deliver like a sustainable, meaningful something going forward that will hopefully prevent and limit fires.
Well, I know from the conversations that we've had in the past, especially when you go into a certain mode with talking to producers and directors and stuff, within a very, very short period of time, you are able to unravel their processes, because you're able to highlight very, very quickly that they haven't done the prep work. And if they haven't done the prep work, they're going to have a problem. And your experience with one of the films that you were an extra on, where they realized you were an accountant, you began to realize how much was missing that they hadn't thought through, and that technically speaking, they shouldn't have been on set at that particular point in time anyway, because they hadn't done the work, they hadn't done the groundwork to be able to, go through the process. What they had got was a money-eating process that basically chewed up everything they had, and they suddenly found that their whole budget had gone, and they destroyed their budget due to the fact they hadn't got prep work done. And I've seen that with other projects. So, and again, I think from the conversations that I've had with you, which is why I thought it was an appropriate question to ask, was although you're in there as a firefighter, as you just now said, you normally get dropped in very quickly. You can see where the shortfalls are, and you're in there starting to create the networks that are necessary to shore up the process so it doesn't go belly up. And that was something that I found was very appealing in your way of processing it, because it matched in, not that I was firefighting, although I can do that, but that's based on the building up of experience of knowing how things should be done, the right correct process that should be applied, so that you can successfully get an output at the other end. And it does become mechanical in one sense. But I think it's really important, because we have set up a structure through ND and GVH that allows us to have a framework to work with, has enough flexibility within it to accommodate any outcomes that we get, and also change of perceptions based on the scene that we're shooting. So we make sure it still fits into everything else. So those preparation pieces are extremely important. And we've been talking recently about the fact that on this particular one, if we start to have a Steadicam involved, just a simple new piece of equipment within the process, we can start to insert within our films a sense of movement and direction that we wouldn't have had previously before using certain other systems. And we can start to do that within the storyboard process. So even at this stage, we can now start to plan, well, what do we want to see on this scene at this step? How is it a single shot that accommodates the whole of the scene? Because those can be quite exciting as well. Not for the editor, because they just have to top and tail it and just insert it. But if you've got all the things happening from wides to close up to medium shots to reverse angles, all happening in movements, that becomes an interesting journey that you've directed your audience to as they go through. So we're designing things right from the initial concept. We're also making it so we can be efficient with our budget. And we know on day one, minute by minute, whether we're going over budget. And we've discussed in the past that quite often the first day, and it will be the first day of every 10 weeks in the next project, because the first day is where people are getting used to interacting with one another, seeing how they work, seeing how they react to certain things. We all then start to accommodate one another's, little ways of working. And by the end of the week, everybody will be working faster, because they've suddenly got to know people at the early part of the week, and they'll be enjoying that process, and they'll become interactive. They'll be able to take over each other's roles at certain points if necessary, and they'll be able to make contributions of by suggestions of what we could do to improve those things, which I think is the exciting part of it. But without the initial framework and the structure that gives them that security of working within the environments we're creating, they wouldn't be able to do that, because they'd be in that fight or flight process of being anxious because they don't know what's going to be happening. That's what we're creating.
Yeah. What's nice there, I want to pick up on two words, which is framework and freedom. The freedom within the framework.
Yes.
So we're building the processes that we know if these, if we have this process in place and we apply the process with a particular methodology, it will deliver X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Given all things are, do their roles and jobs and tasks. But I was chatting to someone earlier on, and the weird thing is, most people, the further you move out into the future, the less tangible frameworks become, and the processes break down because they're not in place yet. You're trying to wield or take control of a future by building frameworks and processes that you can contain it. And then you're saying, when you turn up in that timeline and you carry out these activities in this methodical way, you can deliver X, Y, and Z. But it is lassoing time and containing it in a framework, a process, and not limitations, but more limiting your scope and your focus. Because we're saying we need to get this done by in this timeline with these tools and these people and resources and this budget. But I mean, on that Tuesday, if you do X, Y, and Z the way we're talking about, we can consume that time and deliver this. You know, these minutes of activity, of action that can be caught on camera in our particular world. But what the person I was talking to was they were starting to worry about, you know, actually my own daughter was going, I've been offered a job, absolutely fantastic. You know, she's in her final year of college. She was doing her internship. She's just about to leave it. And they've said, look, we value what you've given to us in this time already, that we don't want to lose it. So we're offering you a graduate placement right off the bat. You don't have to compete for it. You know, so, but then what she heard was, I was planning when I'm finishing, I'm going to Australia for a year doing, so her whole world just changed in what should be a positive, because this is what you're looking for when you graduate, and you're giving it to you before, now you're being offered it before you finish one timeline. They're now saying, come work in our structure for the next 4 years, do X, Y, Z, move between this, that, and the other. So she saw it as a locking in of her future timeline that she had plans for, as opposed to this is offering you the very thing you were looking for.
Yeah.
You know, but and you're not worrying about the wrong thing. And she's her conversation quickly moved to, I'll be there for 3-4 years. I'll have done a master. Then I could be getting married. I'll have 3.2 children. I'm 7 years out and I haven't gone to Australia. And I'm going, they only offered you 10 minutes ago. But the thing is, we start filling ourselves into this. I know my next year, if we do what we're saying, is already fully consumed.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, because it's going to be 10 weeks of that activity, it's going to be editing here. We're going to be packaging and promoting in that timeline. I'm going to be painting out the back for the next 6 months. You go, and it's going to consume 10 hours a day for the next 9 months. And I'm going, I have no problem with that, because if that's happening and it happens the next day, and we're doing it because we want to do it, and it's because we want to do it, we're looking forward to doing it, and we need to do it. It's not having to do it because someone told you to do it. It's you told yourself, this is what I'm doing. That's when I'm doing it, by that date. And I'm excited about these processes and frameworks that I'm wrapping around present and future time to deliver outputs I want to deliver, we want to deliver. Because if this happens in this way with that minimized risk, then we're going to deliver what we're saying. And anyone that does that, most people are afraid of, there's no task list. There's no time, and there's no list, and they don't know if they're succeeding or failing, and they don't know the freedoms they have, and they're more fearful of 10 years has gone in a sentence based on, I have a job for the next 10 years I've got to achieve. But it just took the joy out of it by being fearful of time without a plan and without task and activity. That's all good stuff. So we're filling our future time with plans of things we want to do in an order that if we do things in a certain order, we can keep on delivering the next step along the way, and we will achieve our goals for that, our goals with this plan. And that's so therefore contain, framework, time, and process.
What's
freedom within it?
Well, there is a freedom within that structure, because what we're enabling to happen when we do get the 10 weeks of filming to happen is each moment, everybody will be in the now. They'll be in the present. They don't have to worry about even the next shot that we're going to do. All they need to focus on is what needs to get done now so that we can move things forward. How do we solve the problems that we have in this next few minutes to work with? So we're actually taking people out of the future and keeping them in the present. And we also are being kept in the present through the activities that we need to undertake to enable them to be able to do that. And I think that's, and again, we haven't seen it as a way of restricting us from doing other activities, because even during the script writing process, one of the things I found is that life will throw other things in. They'll throw the curveball in to upset you and a bit like your daughter's just had. But the thing is that what you suddenly start to find is that you need those gaps, those spaces, so that when you do apply yourself, you're in the right frame of mind. We're talking about frame again, to be able to solve the issues at that particular point in time. Whereas if you go in too quickly, you may have not been in the right frame of mind. And because there's a reluctance to do certain things, you'll actually mess it up anyway. Whereas now, because of the excitement and the joy that we're getting out of this, even though it's about creating work, it's not, it's about solving problems. We love solving problems. And I think we're suddenly seeing our imagination has taken us on a really interesting journey through the processes that we're doing, because we're seeing all kinds of possibilities. I mean, even that Steadicam that we've been looking at this last couple of days and kind of going, well, actually, there's some money coming in. I'll be able to buy that. And even if we do get another one, that's useful because we always have a backup. And the great thing is that I'll get a chance to play around with it, which is play, get the idea of play. I'll be able to play around with it, see how it works, see what's the best way to get the results that I would like to see on screen with the camera technology we're doing. So we'll have it all tested out so that when we do get someone that's never used this before, never had to put this harness on, we can guide them through that process and they'll feel secure in what they're doing, because at the end of the day, that's what we're going to try and do. If everybody feels comfortable, they'll feel relaxed, and they'll get ideas that they never would have had before. And that's what we're actually generating, is that activity that people will enjoy the process they're going through. We are I mean, I love the fact that I've gone through a 144-page script. It was 120, it's now become 144, just because the actions have been added in. But I feel excited by reading through the script and seeing it as a film. Garvin was worried about me cutting out some of his dialogue. I haven't touched the dialogue. The dialogue has inspired the actions. It's enabled me to see those people who are saying those lines in a certain role and activity that makes sense of what's going on. So it's not just two people sitting in a chair talking to one another. They're actually doing something in that activity that's inspiring the language that they're actually using, or dialogue, let's say. It doesn't matter what the language is. And I think that's what's fun. And that'll give the actors something to work with, because they'll say, oh, right, between this scene here and the next scene, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to achieve such and such through the dialogue I'm doing. And we've been watching Bodkin, the TV series, and that's been given us, because it's set in Ireland, it's been given us some ideas of what we could do within our film. Not to take this, we're not taking the story, but we're looking at the conventions they're using and whatnot. And that'll inspire us through the film that we're doing. And I think the other thing that's important is not to, we talked about people making comments about what we're doing and blowing them all out of proportion and sort of seeing them as criticisms. But I think the key thing is that one person will say one thing about what we're doing, another person will say another. And really, if we're happy in the process that we're going through, I think that's what's important. We're on a learning curve. There'll be things that we'll do through this journey that will modify for the second film, and there will be a second, and there will be a third, and there will be a fourth, because that's the way we're going to work things. And I think as we grow as filmmakers and become more accustomed to what we're doing through the processes that we're engineering together, and then we're engineering these together, we will start to see new opportunities and push ourselves to another level each time we go through this process. And I think that's exciting. And that's, you know, we're no longer working. We are working in a way that people will be able to recognize at some point, but it doesn't feel like work. It feels like we're able to use our time on this planet to do something productive that we enjoy, that will allow other people to have an experience that they will enjoy, and hopefully give them a sense of how they can apply their skills they've learned, not necessarily in filmmaking, but in any other task and activity they do, so they can start to enjoy their life. And I think that's what it's about. There is, now we say work, there's a form of suffering. Is that suffering? If we're enjoying the work and the task and the activities, and it's stretching us mentally and physically, because it will do both. I need to get a bit more fit. I think there's a sense of satisfaction that comes out at the end of it, because we can see what we've achieved as we've gone along. And as long as we keep monitoring that process of what we've achieved a script, you know, a fully fledged script that we've been working on. There are certain tasks and activities that we're setting ourselves in the next step of sanctioning that script. And then we'll do a storyboard. And then those storyboards will go on to the canvases as a form of marketing, as you've talked about, the film that we're about to endeavor, so that other people will get excited by it as well. And there's a grandness to it as well, which I think is lovely, in what you've actually achieved with those 52 canvases. And there are tasks and activities to each one of them that, as long as we do what we need to do now, the future will sort itself out. And that's all it is. And we'll find other ways of improving the process as we go along because of what we're actually doing now. So yes, we are thinking about the future, but it's important what we do now in the present that will make sure that whatever happens in the future will work out properly. 5 years ago, we weren't thinking of doing this. We were thinking of developing master degrees and H&Ds and all those sort of things. We've realized that we don't need to, but we've had to go through a process, step-by-step process, to work out what was necessary and what's not necessary for our own personal development needs. And what we've now come to is this film that we're about to work on, because it signs all the dots and crosses and all those sort of things on tees and stuff. It allows us to accomplish all the things that we want for this chapter in our life as we go forward.
Yeah. What's interesting is, we're doing the work that we're happy to do to deliver in the future someone else's now, which is, but what we will be delivering is, I think I'm going to use the words as targeted functional play experiences. In a sense of, we're de-risking that timeline for them to effectively come along and feel comfortable enough to be themselves and play. But within its in the sense of like within an environment that's a safe and healthy environment for them to let go of whatever is happening in their present outside of that functional space, or that framework and safe space. They can leave it all at home. It doesn't matter if they're captains of industry or if they're or whatever baggage they might carry, good, bad, or indifferent. We're saying leave the baggage at the door. It doesn't matter if it's Louis Vuitton or it's like a rucksack, or it's like a black sack. It can be we're using this language yesterday. We're vanillaizing. You're coming in and we're removing all previous histories because we're arriving in a new now. And in this space, you can hopefully be yourself or find yourself, but find it through play. And the play that we're delivering to you to get a new experience, to actually deliver something that engages you enough so you forget outside interference, because you're so engaged in the moment of the now with a functional experiential play that we deliver, that you're caught up. You're caught up in the moment, and you're caught up in the moment with others, and you're finding this new team that has an ask of the day, of the moment, actually even of the moment of the day. And that's the interesting thing. When we did make our film, and I mean, that was first experiences for me as well. I was going, that time just flew. There wasn't enough of it. We couldn't get enough of it because we're so busy doing what it was we were doing, and it was not work in any way or form. It was an excitement and adrenaline and new experience. And you're actually, we were talking about this earlier on, where you were dressed in it. You're going, even just to have this harness that you put the camera in, and you're wearing a hat that said, I'm a part of the crew or the cast, and I'm on set. Even the language, you're on set now, quiet please. You just entered this realm of a different planet, a different plane of existence, of access to this plane that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet in this way or form, with those people, with this moment, with what's going on. And that's the exciting thing about it. We're even for ourselves, to be in this moment again. That's what I'm looking forward to. I sort of dread the moments in between because there's work and I don't know whether to be good, bad, or indifferent. And the more we do meaningful, functional steps to it, I know it's a safe space I'm heading towards when I arrive at it. And that's us working it. And our communication for others is, that's what our difficulty is going to be. And not difficulty, it's the difficulty of finding the right language so we can get that to others to understand. This is a retreat. This is a mindful space. It's going to be engaging. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be make friends and influence people. It's going to be collaborative. It's going to be free. It's going to be a free form space within confines of framework. But the free form is the you, in the sense of find yourself and find freedom to try new things in a safe space with others, and maybe make friends by leaving your baggage at the door. So and that's my own baggage as well, and get caught up in that week. And I'm looking forward to 1 week, 10 weeks, 6 weeks, doesn't matter how many weeks in the future and near future. I'm excited by it, and I'm willing to invest now for it. And others will have to save for it. If they want to be there, they got to queue for it, and then they got to find us. They got to seek us out and find and bid for it, because that time in that way doesn't exist. It's only going to exist for this select few of individuals that get it, understand it, and see it as, I need to be in that space. I need to be there. I need to be doing whatever the hell it is they're doing or talking about. And everyone else out there needs to be creating that own journey for themselves, going, it's don't be put yourself into a silo of function, of job, of time, of killing it, of putting it in. It needs to be exciting. It needs to be looked forward to. And there are captains of industry, and they're at the top of the curve. But there's an awful lot of people that dread Monday and the wish a week away. If you find yourself in that space, you got to find a way out of it. And sometimes go on a holiday of this to get a break from it, just to breathe, that you can look at something from a distance and then understand that's a prison cell. Yeah. Unless you're happy to walk back and put yourself back in it, you've got to find a way out of it.
And I think, as you were talking there, I was thinking of, I've been doing this counseling course, and so I'm now a qualified counselor.
The coach and counsel me more than you've ever done before.
Yeah. That's where my experience has been coming from. Yeah. I thought I'd built up 100 hours with Pips, but I've actually brought up
5,000 hours with me. You should.
That's the thing. I think this is really good. Yeah, because it's like it's an hour a day every day for the last 5 years. So we're talking about 1,500 hours at least. Yeah. So I think that's quite good. But the process that we're going through is like filmmaking therapy. That's a kind of filmmaking therapy which gives people a chance to come out of themselves and really also, part of the process that I've been going through with either within counseling and also teaching students in college was allowing people to find themselves. And in the task that we're doing, we'll be looking at who the people are in the room and what skills do they bring. And in the way that they are there with us in that present will reflect and it'll also, others will absorb that from the way they are. So, and I think, when we were working with Dexter, we knew that he had some worries. We knew Katie had some worries, and you could see that in how they were doing things. But eventually that became part of the characters they were playing. So that was lovely in the acting side of it. But also, you'll have that same thing working with when they're doing sound, when they're holding the boom, that influence that they have on them will be energizing through the camera, will be energizing through the boom. Even the clapperboard, the way they present the clapperboard, we'll hear it in the sound when they speak to us on set, and then in the dialogue that we'll be having with them during the breaks, because the breaks are an important part of getting to know one another. So that very first day, which may not be an actual shooting day, but may actually just be a getting to know one another, is to try and, we can go through a number of different scenes, but we may reshoot them in the days afterwards. But the idea is that it gives them a chance to interact and perform. Some people who might be scared of some kind of performance, it's not necessarily they're going to be in front of the camera, but even just doing a little task, you're trying to ease them into that role, to give them to empower them to know that they can do that and there's nothing wrong. And I think by simplifying each task down to its bare minimum, which is what we're doing, you may be operating a camera, but you don't need to know all the science of how that camera works. you're just being encouraged to get it from one position to another if you're using the Steadicam, or just holding it steady on a tripod and just pushing the on-off button to make sure it runs. But there are activities that are essential that you need confidence to have. I mean, one of the things that I was also thinking was how important it is to be honest on set, because the rest of the crew are trusting you in the task that you've been given. And if there's something that you're not sure about, say, for example, you're listening to the sound and there's a bit of crackle or something going on, or some interference that nobody else is aware of because they're so focused. It could be a tractor going past outside that could interfere with the sound. We want you to say, I'm not happy with that. Can we do it again? We don't need to look at it to check to see. We just go with your sense that you weren't happy, and we'll just shoot it again. It's quicker to shoot it again than it is to look at the thing, because you're wasting time looking at, so it's easier to reshoot it. And that's the same with the camera. If there was something that you weren't happy with in the shot, or maybe something went slightly out of focus, say, look, I'm not happy with that shot. Can we do it again? Because we can quickly do it again and go through the process, and everybody happy with that. It could be that someone's stomach grumbled in the middle of it because they're hungry. Do it again. Whereas if someone says, oh no, that's fine, but it turns out it wasn't because they hadn't switched on the sound recording, we haven't got that material. We can't use it in the editing, and that then becomes a waste of time, and we can't bring people back because it's an expensive process to bring people back. So we want to make sure that as long as everybody's being honest with the activities that are going on, if they didn't switch on the sound recorder, it's okay. Oh, I didn't get a chance to switch it on. Sorry, messed up. That's okay. We can do it again. You're forgiven straight away. There's no blame. But if we get back to the edit suite and find that wasn't recorded, and we now don't have the sound, or we don't have the picture, because sometimes the cameras can be a bit kind of funny. Hitting the camera, you're not sure if it's gone on and off. So if you're a bit uncertain, just say, look, can we just go through that procedure one more time? It's quicker to get it done there and then. We won't have wasted any budget. So that honesty that we need is very, very important, because we're trusting the people that we're working with. So there's a team building exercise that's actually going on to develop that trust that you have. And if you're somebody that doesn't trust people, or you feel that people just are there to screw you over or whatever, this is also an exercise to help build you into trusting people and relying on other people and seeing it is a team building exercise. So one of the things that you had discussed before was there could be an opportunity within this to bring corporates in, to basically have 8 people come in to do a corporate exercise in filmmaking, where they get a chance to develop that team that they have to work with on a day-to-day basis. So there's another way of promoting that kind of retreat that we're actually offering in team building skills. Instead of going off and sort of getting all muddied up and going on an obstacle course, why not come and make a film with us?
We're turning into ads, George. The problem is, this show and a couple of other shows, and I've no problem with it, is now because what we're really doing here is we're talking to ourselves, because we know there's no one else out there, and we're going, what is this? It is what it is. Why are we doing it? Yep, we're still happy with that. We're going to put lots more work in. Yep, we're still on foot. We're going to invest. We're going to buy some more props, more tools, and bigger. We understand the why more than we did 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Where it's getting focused, and it's for anyone out there. Do you understand your why? And most of the time, it's people are doing. We're in this little hamster wheel of, I did it because I did it yesterday. I'm doing it again tomorrow, and I'm on this little merry-go-round of, there is no why other than the fact that's what I do, and I keep on doing till I die. So don't be doing your why till you die if you don't know what the why actually is. And because the why changed. The why sometimes is, I have a bill. My kids are going to college. I need to be able to pay that. I'm working to get this amount of money to pay that bill. And I was talking to a friend earlier on that he just mentioned he has no kids. And I was going, well, I have a whole lot of bills that my whys was to pay bills for the kids' bills that they brought with them, to have that joy of children and growing up and fatherhood and family. But at the same time, they brought a whole lot of you are now responsible, and to however extent or how much, you've got to go out there, work more harder to get figures to pay for this baby, that baby, clothe them, feed them, bring them to school, put them through college, and send them off to find their why. But this person in question didn't have a child and doesn't have children. I said, well, you can adopt possibly, maybe foster. He said, no, it's not about that. He said, you don't have those bills. He says he doesn't have to do all that work for all those bills, and therefore, if he has all that extra money, or if he didn't do the job, he has all that extra time because there was no why of children in his particular journey. So therefore, sometimes even the why now is my kids are going to go off to college. There's an extra bill to come, but I'm not veering from. I know my why now is to use whatever time I have left to be more meaningful going forward for me, and then to more, and not just for me, be selfish in the me, but be going. I'm a little bit more driven on the me because X number of years ago I said something. I says I'm going to do this, and if all it is I did it. I said I'm going to do it. I did it. It took a bit longer than I thought because I didn't know what it was then exactly. But it's now become I'm going to do this. I'm going to make films. I'm going to make micro ones. I'm not going to make them. The I is a we in a very wild sort of case here. I'm going to work with a team of a few individuals at a core, and hopefully beyond it'll grow and get bigger and smaller over time. We're going to make multiple films in this method and process going forward, and that's now my new why. Not new why. That's the what. The why is because I like it, and because I can, and because the people I'm going to be doing it with, it's going to be enjoyable. So it becomes, it's not for how much. I might need the money, I might not, I don't know. It certainly costs time and money to be involved in it, and even the opportunity cost of money that might be earned somewhere else. But I use that for years as the excuse. I need to earn this and work those hours for this why of X amount. And it meant nothing. All the money to date was got and earned under a what and a why at absolutely zero interest in, other than the output value of it gives me X for Y time. That's what it gave me. It didn't give me I'm doing this because I'm career orientated. And no, this is the first. Why? Because I like it, because I enjoy it, because I like the people, because it's going to leave an output. It's because I said we're going to do it, and we did, and we showed to others an example of what can be done if you work together and you stick to your goals, and you keep on pushing through obstacles. And I mean, our 5 years is a weird 5 years in the sense of it was COVID 2 years, it was SAG and WAG strikes in the industry, the death knell of the industry we picked. It's nobody's entering it, everyone is exiting, and we're heading out with a speedboat to the Titanic, and we're leaving the life jackets at home. If no one in the right mind would be doing what we're doing, but we're not in a right mind, that's for bloody sure. And we're not doing what they think we're doing. We're going out there, and we know we could refloat the Titanic, or we could save some souls off of it. So what I'm excited about is, I don't want to be doing a sale on, this is our product and this is the how and this is the, because, that just becomes nearly an ad. What we really want to do is reflect out to others. We're a safe space. We get you. We've gone through that pain. It took us 50 something years to break out of our silos and stop and not put up with it, and we were shut up and we had to put up, and we said no, we don't have to do that. We're going to set sail with our own ways. We're going to be an example of what can be done. We're going to use our own skill sets. We're going to learn more, and if at all possible, we're going to create new doorways like we can open and invite others in, and then make an example that it's not with anything you want to do it. Don't be afraid of it. That's what our show is all about. We're human. And everyone is, and everyone has their own problems, their own baggage, if they're successful, it might look like it on the outside, but you don't know the baggage and the pains they're carrying in some other heading. We all have shit going on, excuse the French, but let's find a safe space. Let's find mindfulness. Let's live a life worth living in the time that we have, doing stuff we want to do, and enjoy it with others, and show a reflection out to others. This is what can be done. You find your equivalent why, and go off and do it. It could be knife making, it could be anything, it could be sailing. We don't care. But it's, you gotta find it and you gotta do it. There's no more putting off for a day that doesn't exist in the future. There's only now.
And I think what's important is we've been chatting for ourselves primarily, but having these conversations that we've just been doing for the last maybe 40 minutes so far.
Well, 5 years. Yeah.
Well, and 5 years, but it's allowing us. See, one of the problems in most jobs is they don't get a chance to talk things through. They're forced to listen to what someone's demanding of them. They're being told to, you said it, shut up and get on with the work. But they're not getting a chance to share what it is they're experiencing. And even if you go to meetings these days in a corporate sort of setting, there's an expectation that you attend the meetings, but it's not for you to discuss things, because you get told quite often, this is not the agenda to discuss that kind of topic. And you kind of go, well, where is the agenda that I get? You know, I've only got these ideas because someone's been talking to me at this moment. And I think this is where, I mean, this is why talk therapy is such an important part of, you know, mentoring or coaching or even counseling, is because it gives people a chance to bounce their ideas around in an environment that they feel safe. You've just described apparently the counseling environment where someone feels safe. They're not being judged. They're not being made to look foolish because they've got certain ideas. They're being allowed to express themselves in a way they never got a chance to do. And when it's echoed back to them, they're given an opportunity to see, well, actually, maybe I need to change my way of thinking on this, because maybe it's not as bad as I thought, or even just to come up with, what do I really want? You know, what do I want in life? Now, during the conversation there, you were talking about the bills that you have because of your children, whereas your other colleague hasn't got any children, so he doesn't have the bills, but he also doesn't have purpose, not quite in the same kind of way. Because what we as human beings are here to do is to make sure that we do have children, so we can pass on so the human race can carry on, which I know sounds a bit daft. Now that automation is coming in, people's jobs are being lost left, right, and center, and the recruitment agencies are now recruiting AI employees, and they're encouraging companies to think of AI as a better method than a human one that's more cost effective. So you're ending up with a lot of people who suddenly had a job, were able to generate an income, and now they're being told that they have no purpose. Whereas these activities give people a chance to rethink what life is really all about. And they're allowed to function in a way that they're not allowed to do in a normal work environment. Because the work environment is all about, you've got to make money, you've got to make money. And it's not you making money for you to develop, it's how can you be exploited so that so somebody else can make money all the time off of you. And what you're trying to do is, we're trying to set an example to our youngsters of ways of possibly leading their lives, so that they can, you know, get the most out of it. And it's not again, not from a selfish perspective, but to feel that they're satisfied with the purpose that they've been given on this planet for the short time they're actually here. We are influencing not only our children, but our great grandchildren that haven't even turned up yet. And ideas that we're doing and things that we're following through, which are taking time. They're not quick things. They're not quick fixes. This is something that takes time, potentially a year or two to do. And when at the other end, those people that may criticize what we're doing sees that it's the activities that we're doing now that brings the fruit later on. Because any fruit tree takes time to grow from a seed to a massive great big tree. It can take 30 years. So we're seeing a long-term vision. The activities that we do now make sure that those long-term visions come to fruition. It's an important part of the process. You can't just go out and do stuff like, you know, the Matrix, where Neo gets suddenly, oh, I can now fly a helicopter because it's just been injected into me. That doesn't happen. It takes time to practice things, time to refine those processes, and times to get things going. Most people are special. In fact, everybody's special. They think differently to the next person. They have a different way of doing it. we've normally been forced to conform to a process that try and turns us all out into drones, which is why they're now coming up with drones and robots, because they can do those things. Whereas us humans tend to be a bit kind of, we go off on our own way of doing stuff, you know. But if we can see the skills and the talents of each individual that we're with, and that their life experiences are totally different, and they have a unique story to tell in the journey they're going on, this allows us to come up with ideas for stories that we want to tell within our filmmaking process. And who knows, we may be inspiring another great filmmaker, another great artist, another great writer to do something that they've always dreamed of doing, but they never had the courage to go off and set sail because they thought the waters were too rough. And they've stayed in the security of a so-called job that seems to bring that income in, but they never have enough money to pay the bills at the end of the month. And they're worried that maybe next month their job will be lost and they'll have to go and find another one. The number of people that are in their 50s now, younger than us, who are suddenly finding that whereas once they could change job, you know, every other year, they're now finding that they can't because someone's now restricting them based on their age. And they're being left in an environment that seems totally hostile to them, that they can end up having heart attacks with if they carry on pursuing. So we've taken that extra jump now of realizing that any job that we now do at this point, even though people are saying that our age should be going back to work, actually it's not. It's to basically force us into an earlier grave to get us out of the picture. I know it sounds dramatic, but I think most people are suffering because the systems that they're working in are being destructive to their humanness, and they can't see any point in what they're doing. Whereas now we're having that flexibility to think about things. We've been passionate about what we're doing. You've enjoyed today because your daughter's been given some prospects of work, and you're seeing that your son has that. So in a way, all that effort that you've put into your children over the last few years is coming to fruition, and you're now getting that excitement and joy of what they've been able to achieve, and can actually keep on nurturing them as well. Because even though they're all about to leave home, they still need their mums and dads. My kids do. I mean, my kids are in their 30s. They still need their mums and dads. They still need to have those chats with you. And if you can give them that time to make them feel that little bit special, because you're their only mum and their only dad in that environment, it's important. I'm thinking now because I've got grandchildren and their mums and dads are so important to them. We are having an opportunity where we can reset people's ways of thinking through the processes that we're doing. And I think that's what's exciting. It's not to control people. That's nothing to do with what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is to give them an opportunity to express themselves in that environment that gives them that safety they need and a challenge also to step out and try something different and see what else they can do in a crazy world that we live in.
That's it. We keep on talking about the room. We're saying that this room, it could be a virtual room. There is a room out the back, which might form part of what we're talking about. But it's a safe space. It's a room. You can find your own room. Sometimes you have a man shed. You've got your shed at the back in your case. We all want a space that we can go into that space and leave everything outside. And in there, it might just be to be mindful, do nothing, not think, not be responsible, or to be at all, but just to be away from the madness and the mayhem. Now, we're actually doing the opposite. We're saying, come into this room and we'll introduce the madness and a new mayhem in a controlled environment of this make-up Walter Mitty world that we're going to capture, that you're going to be a part of. But it's still a safe space of entertainment, of, as I said, that you get to go do with a handheld approach. We're back to this cell of what we're talking about, but we're trying to create a safe room.
Yeah.
And that's a safe space, a safe room. And the strange thing is, for ourselves. And it just happens to be, this is mine, how about yours? You go, do you like what I have? And that's what the world is about. I like that. That's an example. That's why I think I like one of those, or I want to be part of that, or I want to be there. And that's what like holidays are. They show you come to Butlins, come to Disneyland. You're going to show you look at all the thrills and rides you can be, and these are people like you too, and they like it and you love it because you're like them. So there's a weird bit of that going on where we will figure out our advertising, our communication strategies, who our customers are. But sometimes we're trying to say it's our customer is anybody that
Yeah.
wants to leave whoever they are currently at home and come and be a new you
Yeah.
and not worry about what you were before and try something different and not be judged. So we're doing that. That's what we're doing, and we're trying to define it, and we're trying to framework and trying to process drive it, and we're not even the experts on it. We're clueless at the best of times, but we're trying to. That's what we're learning. We're trying to reflect it back out, and if we it's not this if and when and then we're succeeding each day. It's more real to us, and at some stage others will understand it. We barely understand it because we can't expect anyone else to understand it. But the reason it's not that we barely understand it, because an awful lot of what we're talking about is in our heads. It's in our mind. We're having those safe conversations where we're visualizing and basically chatting and now getting excited about a virtual something in a conversation. But that's even what the room was about, to get a space. And I think those scriptwriter rooms are like that. Create a story out of nothing, out of fresh air and ideas. And that's what every product on the planet came from. It was, you had an idea, it doesn't exist, this is what it looks like, and if you mix a couple of these ingredients together, that's what it does, and this is what it'll cost. So there's a little bit of that going on. We're creating a new universe. And in our case, we're just going to say, the first example out in the real world environment is this script is going to become a film through this process of these many rooms of different people having go play dates with new friends that they haven't met yet. But we're going to create that opportunity and a door to a room that doesn't exist to make friends and influence people on a journey you cannot buy anywhere else on the planet. So, but that's unique, and it's a journey to be made real. And I mean, I'm sure everyone else out there is go have your dream, and then make some version of it real. Otherwise, it's just a plan. It's just a goal. It's just a dream. It can be real.
Well, everything that we're doing is similar to what I did when I was a youngster, in doing a piece of artwork, doing a drawing, doing a picture. Now I'm getting to do 700 of them for the project.
1100 now. I'm not
1100. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is that, when I was a kid, I used to do model making. And in the model making, you were given in little plastic frames, you were given all the pieces that had been, vacuum formed or whatever how they've been made, plastic injection. And then you got a set of plans that basically told you how to construct your kit. And although it was step by step and like paint by numbers, you still got the enjoyment that the only person that got to make that piece was you, because you'd followed the instructions. Now there may be hundreds and hundreds of the same kits, but they're each uniquely put together just on that moment. And it taught you then how to follow instructions. It taught you how to also problem solve, because someone was saying that I'm not sure if it's the Lego one or the Meccano kits, one of the things they used to do, so you had constructive criticism, was they always had a problem. There was a piece missing. So you had to come up with a method to join these things together to work. What's exciting about that is that I've started getting back into film photography using cameras. And the youngest one's about 40 years old, because they stopped making them nearly 40 years ago. And so in the cameras themselves, there are little issues. Like one of the things is the little foamy bits have started to break up. I've started to find little courses that tell you, even little YouTube videos, once you've seen the video, you can go, oh, I can do that. So you take out the old stuff and you put in the new stuff. It's the same with cars. When you watch YouTube now and you can find whatever it is you need to fix. But there's a certain pleasure in, I fixed that. I didn't have to get somebody else to come in and do that. I was able to do that myself. And we're applying that same principle throughout each of the stages that we've gone through. Initially, we had ideas for a story. And actually, one of the things that I think was lovely about the one that we're working on now, which you came up with, is that you had some experience of something like this and it developed into a story. So we're finding that we don't have to go off and become overly original. There are things that are influencing us at this moment. It's the same as what's happening with this podcast at the moment. The conversations that we had just before it have now influenced what we're talking about in this project. I had some preamble with a friend of mine, Tommy Sands, for an interview that I did last week with him. And it was the preamble talk that actually flavored what the interview was going to be about. And it's the missing element, I think, that's in the documentary I'm working on. So I know I'm going to have fun because I know it's like a jigsaw. I've got all the missing pieces I've just suddenly found that were hidden under the rug, and I've been able to pull them out, and now I can just put them in right. And now I know it's going to be a perfect picture. Not perfect. It's a better picture. But we're going through that same process now. We're locking off the script. We're saying, right, that we're going to green light that script within next week or so and say, right, now the next stage, which is quite exciting, is to do 1,100 images for that. And because we'll have the 1,100, we'll have all those sequences that we can cluster together and say, well, out of that, we can now do a portrait size 7 by 4 by 7 canvas that will then need to be painted up. And we're already thinking about the process of that. So we're now setting up the very key things that allow us to successfully get those done. And I think that's lovely. It's just, you know, you will be able to, from going through the process that we're doing, literally work out how to do a film themselves. Anybody that wants to go, it's hard. Say it's hard work. It's not that it's hard work. It takes time to process and cook. And I'm now thinking of a menu that you suddenly have for putting together or a description of how to put together all the ingredients to make sure you have a successful piece of cooking to do. You know, we've got to go through. If you follow those processes, they're like little rules. It's funny because I've just written a homily that's actually about that whole thing. If you follow the rules, it's not that they're meant to stop you from doing things. It's allow you to give you the freedom to express yourself in a really, really good way. Like I played music and I was doing something. I did the music for the 2 shorts we've just done, but in another one, I thought, well, what if you don't hit the beats in the right place? And it turned into a mess. It wasn't a very pleasant piece of music to listen to. So if you use the rules of what goes on, the guidelines, you get the melodies right, and you can explore all kinds of avenues to do stuff, which I'll get a chance to do in about this time next year. I hope that I'll be working on some music for the film. So we can get, and that's exciting. And I don't need to worry about it. It'll be something that happens as long as I do what we're doing now. Then in a year's time, I'll get the excitement of doing some music, or however we do it. It's not fixed yet. It's a process that each step of the way will allow us to achieve the next goal. And what we've got now is we've got the storyboard. Then we'll want to do the animatic. And one of the things that Garv and I were discussing a short time ago was we could actually set up a Zoom call and get a few folk together and read through the script, only do the dialogue, and then I've got the dialogue that will go towards the animatic. And that'll be exciting and an interesting little journey on its own right. So all these little exciting moments are setting themselves up just because we're doing what we're doing now, which is really just talking about a process that we want to go through. And if we talk it through properly, we know that we'll be able to put it into action. And it's now becoming more crystal clear what it is. And I think, you know, Garvin said a couple of times, we don't know what we're doing, but we've both got experiences of doing certain processes. And now that we're collaborating, we're able to bounce ideas around based on those experiences that guarantee that those things will actually work. This is the element that, I mean, I've worked on projects where people haven't done this, and they've gone out, they've overshot things, they've blown their budgets, they've annoyed people that they've been using facilities for, someone's home they were in, and because they hadn't actually sketched out or mapped out what they were doing moment by moment, they wasted 7 hours, got to about 2 o'clock and got kicked out of their main location. So that film never happened. And these are the problems that we are now looking at, the possibilities of what could go wrong and coming up with ways of making sure they don't go wrong, and to make sure, again, it's just that safe environment, but it's safe for everybody, so that you know, we can work things through. I know that we, on subsequent projects, by going through this process and doing future iterations of stuff, we'll be testing our capabilities to the next step and the next step and the next step. We will be pushing out our boundaries because we'll be building up that confidence that we know what to do next. We know how to do this based on the experience of the previous work that we've actually done. And that's what's exciting. Now, I know we are running out of life because there's only a few years left. Well, there's the possibility of maybe 30 years or so. But in that 30 years, if we get to do these kind of projects once a year, there's potentially 30 projects, even if it's just one a year. So that's quite a library of films that we'll actually have produced that could influence the way other films are made. And we don't even need to worry about that. We just need to do what we're being motivated to do now and take it that we're being inspired to do that. And that gives us a sense of purpose and enjoyment, and hopefully a chance to relax in what we do day to day, and know that day to day we're doing what's right for us at this particular point in time. We're not causing anybody any harm. We're not causing any of our families any harm. And I do think they believe in what we're doing because they're trusting us with what we're doing, what we are doing at the moment. And although it may not be obvious, they can see that we're getting one step closer, another step closer, another step closer. They can see the work that we're doing, even though sometimes they feel that we're not. But I think within this next year, we will see some great things happening through just this commitment and steadfastness that we've had in seeing this project through. That's what's exciting. It's each day, each moment's exciting because we're building towards something, and we know that it will be there in the end.
Yep, I think I'm going to refer back to many of our shows before, but normally I keep on mentioning, we're putting another brick on the yellow brick road to us. I said, well, I think I found now there's a pile of bricks in the corner all colored yellow, and now I just have to put them in order in time.
Yes.
So we have the bricks. Yep. We know the plan. We know where the road goes. And it's before it was a long winding road and there wasn't even a brick. So there's a difference. And the bricks are yellow, they're multicolored, we're gonna have a bit of fun. And we know somehow along the way we've learned how to lay bricks, which is even matter in the scheme of things. So there's processes that have been built, and there's tools, and there's resources, there's people, there's communities, we understand the skill sets, and so I'm less afraid of tomorrow. And not that I was ever fear or afraid. It's that language of fear and growth, fear of growth, nearly a fear of not knowing, fear of my son was always like that. I think I'm a Burke and he's a Burke, and what it is we want to be the expert without having ever gone through the learning experience, and therefore we don't want to upset or not deliver what someone might expect. But if they are we expect them to be thinking we're going to deliver the answer. Where if they know we're the learner, and then it's a safe environment, then they have no expectations of us other than turning up to learn and giving it our attention to grow, to do that learning. And therefore I'm turning up now. I know nothing in the sense of, and that's the great thing about it. But I know if I do this, I will learn and know more. And I'm looking forward to learning and knowing more about this particular story and journey. And as you said, it's by the end of it and anywhere along the way of it, I'll be able to do more, take on more, go beyond my own boundaries, be left fearful of trying the next step. And that's what the two shorts were about before. It's like you went from sort of 10 minutes to 15 minutes. You went from 1 room to 20 rooms. You went from 2 actors to 10 actors. And now we're going to go to 20 actors, 40 locations, 120 minutes. And it's not a problem. That's just more of the same in that order, with this framework, with that process. Keep turning up, keep doing what you know, the way you're doing it. And you will end up with this answer. And that's the thing. That's the weird thing, as you said, about a process. Not only will you learn to cook, you could become a master chef. If you put that 1,000 hours in and you keep on doing it, you will not be the same at the end as you were at the beginning. You'll just be turn up and subliminally be doing it.
Isn't it 10,000 hours to become an expert?
I think they've changed that rule now, and actually that was the language of it, become the master, at least that. But now there's quicker ways. It's been like, it's not, there's a lot of things that can be learned faster now.
Yeah, I wonder, I think still the 10,000 hours, but I think, we're heading towards that, pretty closely with what we've been doing, because we've been doing this for 5 years. I mean, 5 years, 5 years going from start to end is roughly a master's degree. Do you know what I mean?
But now there's the big question: a master's in what? In my case,
Well,
given I went through the whole thing and I went from a nothing to a something.
yeah,
What the
yeah.
hell is the something? What am I a master now in that I can claim?
I think you're a master in as a producer, because you've gone through the producing role, and but you've also become aware of all the different aspects of the filmmaking process, and you can start to appreciate what each part is doing within that, even though it's just 8 roles that we're specifically talking about, although there are about 12 or 13 roles, but we understand the basic elements of what goes into filmmaking. They're basic departments that you could actually talk about. We've been talking about the production design quite often in what we're doing. So there's an understanding of what needs to go in the frame. And even when we've been shooting, you've been talking about, but we need this because that's the money shot, you know, because of it's got the pieces of artwork that we need to show. And we're now looking in the next production of how can we create pieces of artwork that are specifically designed for the film, which is what the poster is that we're hoping to develop for, that just pops up throughout the whole film. And it's really, it's a key to what actually happens at the end. But if we see it, it's not scripted, but if we see it in different places, we become aware that that is something, it's been put there deliberately. It's not just by accident that this is actually happening. And we can get to see this later on in the story. And I think that's another, there's like that little egg that you were talking about, the Easter egg that pops up in different parts of the movie. We're becoming, we are experts in this process, because we're seeing each stage, why it's important and why we need to actually go through that. And I know the conversations that you've had with other producers, which echoes the early part of what we were saying today, was that they don't fully understand their processes because they haven't implemented them. And so we've become an expert in the process that we've set up, which may be different to other filmmakers, but that's okay. We've utilized our own understanding, our own training, our own research in what we've been doing, and we've done a lot of research to get to this stage so far. This has been quite a long journey. You know, we've put in applications for funding. We've seen how loaded those processes actually are. We've also then looked at how can we fund what we're trying to do in another way, which also then led us to the experiential journey, which, you know, so we've become experts in that. We're utilizing knowledge that I have from education, and how, you know, courses are set up and how schemes of work are set up, and how we find evidence of how people are learning that we can activate within the process that we're doing as well. My ears have just gone funny. It's like a droning noise suddenly just popped up there. It's really weird. But we're expert. We are experts, and nobody will have. It's unique in the process that we've been developing, but nobody else will have that. You know, that, and they won't have this kind of combination that you and I are bringing to the projects that we're working on at the moment. And I think that's unique. But we're also seeing how we can integrate other people like Alan and Will into the project because of their particular skill sets. But it's managing the projects. I think that's what we're doing. We're managing these projects so that we know what the skill sets that we need to bring in from other people. And that's something that I'm looking forward to, because it's stepping out of that process of being on my own. One of the reasons why I would like to get that Steadicam and test it out is because once I've worked out the processes and procedures, I'll be able to demonstrate that to other people so they can take on that roles. And what we'd like is everybody to have a chance to put that, you know, vest on, operate the camera, and feel that they've contributed to the film that we're working on, and we can guide them through that process, which I think is exciting. You've learned how to do sound, and you're building on that knowledge, and we'll continue to build on that knowledge through every single project we work on. You'll get through the 10 weeks of experience that we'll have. although you may not be operating the sound, you will have the experience of saying to somebody how to play around with that. I mean, I got to use the sound gear last week in the interview, deliberately went out and interviewed somebody and had a chance to use my new lights to set lighting up and test out the principles that I want to use with lighting. I know that I can use those skills learned then on each of our shoots. So we're becoming very much experts. And one of the things I think we'll start to see, I'm seeing it already, hopefully you'll start to see it, and you are, is that other people are recognizing through our conversations what skill sets that we have and how solid they are. I mean, I've been talking to architects, and you know that they would plan how much things. And when I explain the project that we're doing, they're knocked out. They're amazed by, because the thoroughness of what we're doing in setting things up. And that's important because, even what I'm seeing my wife doing her job, what I've seen you doing in other areas of your work, and what other people have done in setting up processes and procedures, these are essential because they're ways of managing, assessing things, making sure people are accountable within the process they're doing, and also, making sure the work environment is a safe environment to operate in. That's crucial. So we're masters of that because we've just spent the last 5 years preparing the research, testing things out, seeing where things go wrong, seeing where things go right, and adapting. And that's why it's exciting where we're going, because we know we're going to learn so much from the process and share that information to other people.
Yep, masters of our own universe, which is great.
Yeah.
So no, I'm looking forward to it. It can't get here. Well, it's not. Don't want to say it can't get here quick enough because I don't want to be wishing away time. It'll be here when it's ready, and all the way from here to there is part of it. And even then, after that, it's just the first door for others to understand. Is I'm looking forward to others understanding more what our journey is and how they can be part of it, or if not part of it, do something similar themselves for themselves, that it's okay. It's back to our beginning of the 52 Jokers Wild concept of, but you do not have to be one thing. You do not have to be a number. You can be a joker and you can become anything you put your mind to and your heart to and time to. You can't just be it. You can be open to it, but then to become it that 10,000 hours or some hours of applying an activity of actually doing it, makes you it to possibly others. There's no point in me putting a hat on and go, I am a producer director, without ever doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I am it and I am doing it. And not necessarily successfully or otherwise to others' perception, but to my own perception is I didn't do it before. I wasn't able to. I understand it more. I've learned something about it. I'm now put it into action. I have done it before small. I'm going to do it bigger. It's a lot of we in there in terms of people involved. And it's only through others' recognition and affirmation that nearly their acceptance of, yeah, you're doing it. I understand you're doing it. I can see you're doing it. And actually, that was something I mentioned in this show earlier on, was I said something to my kids earlier on. I'm going to do this. I don't know what that is, how I'm going to do it, and I don't know if I'm going to do it successfully, but I'm going to do this, and now I'm doing it. And that's the only thing I can do, is to show as a reflection. Now, I'm giving it a go. I did what I said. I'm going to give it my best. My best may not be good enough for the conquer Spielberg territory and the universe of TikTok and guests paying, or I should say, the theater paying it out there. But I didn't say I'm going to do that. I said I'm going to go into the film industry and I'm going to make a film. And I don't know how much or how little of it, and the great thing about it is I'm doing it more than I thought, because the film we're making, I wrote and co-wrote, and not only we're going to be multiple activities in. It's beyond what I was even talking about. It's more than I could have expected or wished for or even understood at that point in time. So that's the great thing about it. I'm very excited to get the privilege, to get the opportunity to do it. And with others that get it and want to do it too with you, which is even better. So it's being involved with others and spending precious time and enjoy investing that time and spending that time with others while doing stuff you like to do. That's it.
Well, I think if we look at what we've been doing, we are successful because we're still doing it. We're continuing on that process. We haven't got to a point where we've decided to change path in any form or fashion. We're being successful because this keeps on going and going and going. So it's actually got its own legs and it's running. And I think with any business that you've been in, I mean, especially most colleges and or institutions I've worked for, there does actually come a point where you kind of think it's coming to an end, and you know that feeling. This hasn't. This is still going on and on because we're testing out our own sense of, well, we're testing things out. We're seeing whether things work, and each stage they are working one after another, and that success in itself means that it inspires us to go to the next stage. So we're only looking at the small chunks, and because we're being successful with the small chunks, one after another, you know, it is motivating us to keep on going and keep on going. And I don't think anywhere along the line have we flagged in what we've been doing this last 5 years, even with all the things that have been thrown at us. And I think that's an important thing. Well, we probably have to come to a close now because I think we've been going on for about an hour and 10 minutes or more, which is really, really good. But it's very interesting. I mean, you've got to have these talks. You've got to have these conversations. And I think what we've been talking about in this episode is the challenges of believing in what you're doing and seeing the project through from start to finish. We've been accumulating expertise as we've gone along, and we've been trusting and believing in those experiences that they are presenting us with opportunities and results of where we're going. As we need to adapt, we do adapt, because sometimes we test something out and we see that it's not worthwhile going in that avenue, which is one of the things that we've been doing with applications, because we you know, you just get rejected and rejected. So we very early on realized that that's not the path to go. And if we'd done that, the two films that we've made so far would never have been made, and the documentary I've made recently would never have got done, and the feature film that we're doing would never get done. So we're trusting in that process. It's leading us to the next result. We've got a script, you know, based on an original idea that Garvin came up with. And it's lovely to work with somebody else on their project, on their script that they've come up with. And even though I've done a little bit of the writing, it wouldn't have happened if you'd come up with if you hadn't come up with that original idea in the first place. We're now starting to see this kind of partnership develop as well. We're seeing other opportunities, which is inspiring us to keep on doing the next stage. And we know that what's important now is to do what we've got to do now, because if we don't do it now, the next stage will never ever happen. It will just be a constant dream. But we're actively doing things. We're having agency in our own lives and in moving them forward, and we can see a future, you know, that goes one after another in the same way that we may have started off our careers in the early stage. We're no longer just living moment to moment. We're seeing opportunities of how we can stabilize our own lives through this process, especially at this age of life that we've actually reached. We know we still have certain commitments, and we're fulfilling those commitments as best we can. But what we're doing now, I do believe, will bring in the revenue that we want as we go forward. We may adapt it, but that's the beauty of what we're doing. We're planning and developing and can adapt within that process, because we are committed to what we're doing, but we're not committed to a certain way of doing that may lead us in the wrong avenue. And we do start to say, you know, we do test things to see whether they're viable or not viable. And so far, what we've been doing, especially with the filmmaking, is viable. And I love what we're learning all the way as we go along, and that's motivating us as well. So we've been talking about purpose. We've been talking about how we learn and continue to learn. We're talking about how discussions like this are so important because they're like talking therapy. We're also discussed how the filmmaking is like art therapy, because we can offer a safe environment for people to explore what filmmaking is about without the risks that are normally associated with filmmaking, and give them an experience that will either move them in that direction or show them that actually we'd like to just keep coming back again and again and again, and have, you know, returns, people returning to us because they like that experience that they've had with us. And that's a good possibility as well. So what we're hoping that you'll get from this particular show is a way of believing in yourself and trusting the processes that you're setting up yourself to do things. And if you can, in the small things, get things happening, then the bigger things will happen later on. And they'll actually take care of themselves because you're setting up the things in the early stages to make sure that that success happens. Garvin asked, are we being successful? And my reply was, we are, because we keep on moving forward and we haven't seen a reason to give up yet. And that's the most crucial part of this. If you believe it, keep on going and you'll be successful and you'll achieve your goals. That's what success is, achieving the goals that you've set yourself. And Garvin's doing that with the paintings and everything else. And I'm seeing that with well, if you like, with the counseling, with the photography, with the cinematography, with the filmmaking, with everything we're doing, it's all interlinked. And that's what's exciting. So that's it.
Like, no more from me. Successfully turn up and you're in business. And actually, the last thing is what we touched on this show was it's Albert Einstein. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. If it was simple, no one would be doing it.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot for listening. If you want to like us and share what you're doing, sharing this with other people, brilliant. That's fantastic.
All the best.
Thanks very much. Talk to you again. Bye for now.